The wish of a lonely and poor man, a single act of kindness. The world we live in can be harsh at times, and it's not uncommon to face difficulties such as loneliness and poverty. However, this story teaches us that even in such a harsh reality, there is a glimmer of hope. The protagonist lives in deep poverty and loneliness, but his experiences contain important lessons for us. Selfless good deeds, inner strength, and the courage to accept change are depicted warmly in this story, showing how they can become the power to change one's life. Through the story of one man, we learn the importance of overcoming life's adversities and finding new beginnings. His journey serves as an encouragement to all those facing loneliness and hardships, promoting inner fulfillment and reconciliation with the outside world. By reading this story, even during difficult times in life, you may find the strength to move forward without losing hope. Story. A man lived by a large river. His small house was built quietly in a corner by the river, surrounded by overgrown grass and trees. The man was very poor, and it took extraordinary effort to survive day by day. His clothes were tattered and his shoes were worn out, but he still lived each day positively.
It's a life without dreams or hope. But today another day begins,
he muttered as he bathed in the morning light. Money was needed to eat, but it was hard to find a job to earn that money. The man sometimes tried to find day labor jobs in a nearby town, but there was nowhere that would hire him to work.
No work to be found today either? As usual,
he sighed as he thought about his plans for the day. In the end, as usual, he decided to use the resources nature provided him, gathering fallen branches and trees near the river, making firewood. And taking it to town was his plan. This was the best job the man could do.
This is the best I can do right now,
the man told himself. To go to town, he always had to cross the big river to the other side. That was also a very difficult thing to do.
Crossing that river is a struggle every time,
the man thought as he looked at the river. However, he never lost hope.
Today, for sure, something good will happen. Let's find hope every day by thinking this way,
he thought positively. Today, the man started crossing the river with a lot of firewood on his back. In the cold morning air that stung his skin, he carefully tied the firewood into bundles one by one. That firewood was his only source of income for the day. Unlike usual, the river had risen and was muddy. The sound of the water flowing was louder than usual, and the river seemed somewhat threatening.
The river is a bit rough, but it's a river I'm used to crossing. It shouldn't be a big deal,
the man told himself. However, a slight unease swirled in his heart.
As I thought, today's river is different from usual. I need to be a bit careful,
he thought as he slowly stepped into the river. Step by step, he carefully advanced his feet while probing the river bottom.
Even if the river's current is strong, I absolutely won't let this firewood get wet,
the man had decided in his heart. If the firewood got wet, no one would buy it. Therefore, the man walked more carefully than ever. However, the water was cold, and the current was stronger than expected. And suddenly, the man shouted as he slipped into the deep water.
I've done it now. Damn it! This wasn't supposed to happen,
the man blurted out. He struggled to regain his balance, but it was already too late. The river's water changes its force from day to day. The man, who had thought it impossible, had his feet taken out from under him and sank into the water. The river's current was faster than usual, and the coldness of the water seemed to penetrate to the bone. The man struggled desperately to surface, but the force of the water was stronger than he had imagined.
What should I do? This is bad,
the man thought in a panic, still desperately trying to surface. However, his body was gradually being pushed down by the water. Trying not to let go of the firewood, he couldn't get his body to float to the surface. And the man gulped water several times.
Ugh, the water!
He coughed, still trying to somehow breathe. His thoughts were in disarray, and in an instant, his daily struggles flashed through his mind. Returning home, gathering firewood again, and the question of whether there was any meaning in living dominated his mind. Still, the man continued to struggle to somehow float up while fighting against the river's current. However, the force of the water was overwhelming, and his efforts gradually became futile. The river's water seemed to swallow him up like a living creature. And in his agony, he finally let go of the precious firewood. The firewood was carried away by the fast current and quickly disappeared downstream. And the man, tumbling like a leaf, was swept away by the river.
It's no use anymore.
The man muttered in his heart. His body was swept away by the water, and his strength drained away.
Help me, someone.
The man let out a faint voice, but his voice was swallowed up by the fierce flow of water. He thought he was going to die. The river's current, as if toying with the man, pushed his body up to the surface, and the next moment dragged his body down to the bottom.
This wasn't supposed to happen.
The man felt despair but mustered the last of his strength to survive. He didn't know how far he had been carried or how much time had passed. But eventually the man washed up on the river's bank. He was dazed with fatigue and despair, but somehow he grabbed the bank and pulled himself up.
Amy alive. I survived.
The man said in a daze, but breathed a sigh of relief. He lay there like he was dead for a long time, but when he regained a bit of energy, he started walking with unsteady steps. He still felt the terror of the river in his body, but he savored the joy of having survived. His clothes were heavy with water, and his body was chilled to the bone. He had been carried so far by the river that he didn't even know what town or village he was in. He looked around, trying to figure out where he was, but there was nowhere he recognized.
Where on earth is this?
He muttered in confusion. He was hungry too. Feeling his hunger, he thought about somehow finding food. His body was still soaking wet, but he didn't mind and started looking for food.
Is there anything to eat around here? I feel like I might die of hunger.
The man muttered as he searched for nearby shops or houses. Then, the man remembered that he had a little money in his pocket.
Let's buy something with this,
he decided. With that, he bought something to eat. He wandered around the store, trying to choose something with at least a little nutrition.
Maybe this will help me regain some strength,
the man thought as he picked up the food. He selected the food he needed to satisfy his hunger and bought it. After walking for a while, he met a monk-like practitioner. The practitioner had a quiet and calm demeanor and was standing in front of various houses begging for food. His presence made one feel something sacred, and even the air around him seemed to change peacefully. Seeing this, the man forgot his own ravenous hunger and was moved by the practitioner.
This person may also be struggling to eat,
the man thought and decided to offer his own food to the practitioner. He gave all the food he had bought to the practitioner. The practitioner quietly and joyfully accepted the man's offering.
I'm grateful for your kindness. In return, let me teach you the Buddha's teachings.
He expressed his gratitude and expounded on the teachings of the Buddha. Then, after finishing eating, the practitioner rinsed his mouth and washed his hands.
Your good deed will surely be rewarded.
And before the man knew it, the practitioner disappeared high into the sky right before his eyes. The man felt as if he were dreaming.
I can't believe something like this happened,
the man muttered in surprise. He stood there for a while, trying to understand what had happened. I can't become like that practitioner right now. But at least when I am reborn next time, I want to be different from how I am now. The man made a wish. He looked up at the sky.
Please, when I am reborn next time, let me become a person with a large body.
He wished from the bottom of his heart. With a large body, he could cross even the deepest river without drowning. Just getting his knees wet, he thought.
If I am reborn next time, I don't want to suffer like this. With a large body, I want to be able to overcome any difficulty.
The man wished further. He looked back on his past hardships and held hope for a new life.
With a large body, I won't be swept away like this anymore, and people will probably respect me too,
he thought, strengthening his wish for a new life. He repeated this wish over and over in his heart, nurturing his hope for the future.
But I've given away my food, and I'm at my limit now. Is this the end of my life? Lonely, poor, unlucky. It was a life in which I couldn't find any meaning. I can only believe in the merit of my final act of giving.
The man's breath quietly ceased. However, the man's wish was granted. Because of the causal connection of offering all his food to the practitioner when he was starving to death. Amazingly, the man was able to be reborn in the same world as an incredibly large person. He was surprised to see his new body and realized that his wish had truly been granted.
Is this my new form?
The man muttered while gazing at his enormous hands. His height far surpassed that of Mount Sumeru, said to be the center of this world where the gods reside. And when he put his feet in the great ocean surrounding Mount Sumeru on all four sides, it was only about knee-deep.
With this, I have nothing to fear from any river,
the man said in a confident voice. He began walking through the great ocean as if to test his new power. The water only grazed his knees and he could walk with ease.
I could probably use this power to help other people,
the man thought, pondering his new abilities. He began to think of ways to help others, utilizing the knowledge and experience he had gained through his own experiences. This man's wish was granted through just a single meritorious act. The man felt his transformation and held joy and gratitude in his heart.
To think that a small action could bring about such a big change,
he thought with deep emotion.
Moreover, the Buddha made great vows and accumulated practice over an infinitely long time.
The man recalled the teachings of the Buddha that he had heard from the monk.
If I could serve many people like the Buddha did,
he vowed in his heart. He chose to use the body he had gained not for himself, but for others. The true teachings of the Buddha spread without any obstruction, and it was natural for them to advance, with not a single person doubting their greatness. The man deeply pondered those words.
As a human being, I will also spread this teaching,
he strongly resolved.
My new form will be a big step in spreading the Buddha's teachings,
the man thought as he looked up at the sky. With his new power and body, he aimed to do good for more people, and started walking the path to achieve that. Afterward. For modern people, especially those who are lonely and poor, this story offers the following lessons in particular. Firstly, learning and growth from adversity. The protagonist of the story faces extreme poverty and loneliness, but continues to endure these difficulties. This suggests that no matter how difficult the situation, there is an opportunity to learn and grow from it. Secondly, the value of selfless good deeds. The protagonist's act of giving his food to another person shows the importance of having compassion for others, even when one is in need oneself. This selfless act ultimately becomes the cause for his wish to be granted. Thirdly, maintaining hope. Even in difficult situations, it is important to maintain a positive attitude without losing hope. The protagonist of the story continued to have dreams and hopes even in desperate situations, and that supported him. Fourthly, inner strength. The story teaches the importance of pursuing inner strength and spiritual maturity without being swayed by external circumstances. It suggests that even when facing loneliness and poverty, inner fulfillment can enrich one's life. Fifthly, accepting change and finding new beginnings. At the end of the story, the protagonist literally begins a new life. This shows that a new beginning is possible under any circumstances and the importance of accepting change. For lonely and poor people in modern times, this story teaches that despite difficult situations, by cultivating inner strength and continuing to have compassion for others, new possibilities can open up.